you're ready for this.
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn, hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 36th episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. So I'm your host, Linus Dad Kilius. Dad Kilius?
Dad.
Oh, I guess I am a dad too. Linus Daz Kilius. And I'm joined today, as always, by LiQuiuD and Mystic. LiQuiuD, good to have you back, bud. We missed you last week.
Thanks, man. I just noticed, but I'm missing my G's on the end of my name there.
Oh,
For my Twitter. I'm just gonna throw that
LiQuiuD.
out there now. Nothing like live, right?
I know. Well, that's an easy thing to fix, and I'll fix it while I say, hey, LiQuiuD, I'm sorry, hey, Mystic, how's it going this week, bud?
Oh, it's going pretty good.
What you been up to? You been playing any Stukov?
Yeah, I've been doing some testing here and there in try mode, and it's kind of hard to gauge his power level with the bug that's going on the PTR right now with him and his healing.
The bug with the healing. Uh-oh. You have to tell us about that. I didn't actually even know about that. But I guess we're going to be talking about Stukov along with a bunch of other stuff later in the show. We've got the PTR Patch Notes. Obviously, they came out with Stukov's PTR release. That also has a Xul Rework, which is kind of cool, too. I had played a little bit of Xul in the PTR the last couple of days. LiQuiuD's eSports Corner, as per usual. We missed it last week because we couldn't decipher his notes. Mystic's Shakedown. You have no idea, bud. I looked at it. I was like, Mystic, do you understand any of this stuff? He's like,
No.
not really. I was like, do you think we can filter it down to a few points? And we're like, well, we none of us were really there, watched much because we had the Creators of the Storm tournament too. So we're like, we'll just leave this for next week. Thanks for putting all those notes together for us. So it led to at least nothing else a funny moment. We're gonna have Mystic's Shakedown. We're gonna talk about teaching to troll, which we previously were gonna call Try Hard for Trolls, which started this week. And we've got the always popular HOTS debate that we're gonna be doing, myself versus LiQuiuD, near the end of the show. And of course, we're gonna have a little bit of news, a little bit of a lighter news week, but we're still gonna cover the news as per usual. Okay, but before we start the show, I want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/trollsgg. The show's always going to be free, but if you're looking for a way to support us, you can always do so over at patreon.com/trollsgg. And I think I'm going to start a new segment here. It's kind of on a whim. The Troll of the Week. And I'm going to make the first Troll of the Week our good friend and friend of the show, Fatty. Ex-teammate of mine in Chair League and patron of the show. So shout out to Fatty. I think every week we're going to highlight a troll of the week, either someone we met in the Nexus or maybe a patron as well. So Fatty, thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for being an awesome troll in the Nexus. Okay, so let's get on to the news. And guys, I've actually fixed my soundboard. I got a brand new soundboard this week. So fingers crossed that these are going to work. The audio levels are going to be fine. Please bear with me. Here we go.
Someday, this will make a great story.
I think that worked. Okay, so news this week. Again, like I said, we had a little bit of a quieter news week. However, there are a couple things we do want to highlight. Let's maybe let LiQuiuD take away the first point here because it's kind of his baby. He's on the rules committee for this.
All right, so Chair League new seasons have been set up, and registration is still open for Season 5 Tuesdays League and Thursdays League. You can get those at chairleague.com. The season's going to run from July 13th through September 14th. So if you don't sign up right away, it's no problem. You can join the season whenever you want until week 7, I think is what the new rules say. And even if you don't have a real serious team, Friday night friendlies start this week. So register by tomorrow night to get in on Friday, July 7th's Friday night friendlies. No money, no, just sign up. You'll be scheduled against another team, and you just play a game and have a good time.
So if people want to get cast by LiQuiuD and Mystic, are you guys going to be casting on either night or both?
I haven't talked to Mystic about this yet. I will be casting Friday night.
This is awkward. This is awkward.
But actually, I was thinking about dragging my wife to that one if Mystic wasn't available. So if Mystic's not available Friday night, I'm gonna have her cast with me. But yeah, I'm definitely casting Friday night to So it depends, right? If enough teams sign up and there's actually room to cast, I'll be casting those Friday night.
Well, you can always cast our matches too. Our team's official name is the Cheese Crew. We've got our own like tag spray and everything in the game, which is great for a little wedge of cheese. But we're gonna be playing on Thursdays. I think Division 2 likely is where it's looking like we're gonna be settling. So I'm pretty excited to try for the league to start up because we haven't had Chair League in a while. It's been taking quite a few months hiatus here.
Yeah, so all the rules got pushed into GitHub, and I'm gonna nerd out a little bit. Like Super Jova put some rules around the rules committee and said, have good discussion, create issues. When we finally start on rule, do a pull request with the rule. He's rolling all that up into one markdown document and then bringing it over to chairleague.com. So there's no more of this like, well, what version of the rules matches what? Like it's all in version control, and so like he did a lot of work around that, and he did a lot of work around the whole site, right? Where the caster sign up has moved, the entire look and feel of the site has changed to a degree. So really, he had to do a lot of work. He's looking to expand into Overwatch and some other things too. So, like, he did a lot of work. That's what took so long. We'll see how it works. I'm excited.
We should try to get him back on the show too. He was a great guest.
Yes.
I think he was our first guest ever, actually, maybe around like episode 6. He happened to be a friend to Shiz, who used to be a host of the show before he got posted out for the military. But yeah, I mean, maybe we should reach out to him. He'd be a great person to talk to at the start of the new season and everything. And
Absolutely.
one thing I think a lot of people don't appreciate too, especially since it went Chair League's gone pay to play, is how much work he does put into this, and he does put in a lot of work. And it sometimes these things go unnoticed or underappreciated by the community as well. So shout out to Super Jova for doing such a great job with Chair League, at least in my opinion. Some people on Reddit might disagree, but anyways, from my perspective. So we got a little bit more news too. If you're looking to purchase BlizzCon tickets, if you didn't get BlizzCon tickets last time around, there are some available tonight. If you're listening to this on the VOD or anything, it's too late. Sorry, you missed the boat. But if you're watching this live, it's tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific. I believe it's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So pretty much as soon as the show is done, right in the middle of LiQuiuD's Troll and GG after the show, you'll be sitting there. I'll be watching Troll and GG trying to get an extra couple of BlizzCon tickets, actually, too, for a buddy of mine. So.
If you hear the sound of Daz's voice before 10 p.m. Eastern, run and buy tickets.
I'll let you know. I'll pop into the stream, let you know if I get tickets or not. But they do sell really fast. At least historically they have. So if you want to get them, I'd recommend going to I don't have the link in front of me, but if you go just look up BlizzCon July 5th block of tickets or whatever, you have to head over to universe.com to buy the tickets through them. You create an account, put all your information in advance just to make the process go a lot easier because you literally have seconds. You're be hitting that reload button over and over again, right, to make sure you get to be the first person in the queue to get tickets, and likely sometimes that's not even enough. So head over there as quickly as you can, as close to 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific as you can. But more importantly, last week we had a feeling Stukov would be what we'd be talking about this week, and that feeling was correct. Mystic, do you want to tell us, because you're our resident StarCraft expert, you want to tell us a little bit more about Stukov? Because I don't know much about him, other than he's like a Russian-looking type general who's obviously invested by the Zerg.
All right, well, this is like way back. He was introduced in the original StarCraft, where they introduced him as like this Russian-type looking general, right? And he was like a commander of a pretty big research group kind of thing, and then so... he would occasionally go into combat as well, and he learned about the Zerg, and he's like, oh, they're not all that stuff. They're not all that, but then they turned out to be all that, and he got betrayed by one of his top lieutenants, and then he perished in combat. And then so after that, they sent his body off into space, like kind of Viking-esque, where, they burned the body or whatever, but instead they sent him off into space. And the bad guys in the game, in the universe, they took his body and they're like, well, it's a dead body. Let's experiment on him. So they decided to do a lot of experimentation, and they infested him, and he got resurrected, and he kind of looks like what he does now.
And probably evil to boot, I'm assuming. So mental note. don't.
He's not actually evil.
Oh no.
I was gonna say, like, it's not black or white in StarCraft.
I feel like Blizzard universes are generally like that too. I think on first glance, for someone who doesn't play Warcraft at all, for instance, would assume the Horde is evil, but there can be made arguments for either side having their evil elements to them, right? And just like anything, like Blizzard likes to have everything that's kind of gray area is all about. So in this case, I guess that applies to Stukov as well. But lesson learned: don't jettison your dead body into space.
So I want to throw one thing out there. Mystic actually predicted this like 8 shows ago when we were talking. I think it was when Dahaka ended up being announced, right around that time. So, which is probably more than 8 shows ago now.
Mystic has a pretty good track record. Yeah, we're on show number 36. We haven't been doing this for a short amount of time. We're kind of coming on a year. We're gonna have to start coming up with plans for like milestone shows, like 50 or 100. Actually, Gankbush Squad just had their milestone show. Of course, they didn't take 50 or 100 as milestone. For them, it was episode 69. Of course. Given that Gankbush is definitely the most explicit Heroes of the Storm podcast out there. Okay, so let's talk about Stukov a little bit. We pretty much thought it was going to be him last week, either him or Deathwing, obviously. And so Stukov is a support. He's a melee support, but you can actually spec him into being a ranged support, which is kind of a cool mechanic on his level 1 talent tree. So what he basically does is he spreads healing pathogens to teammates. That's his support portion of his healing. It does both AoE dot healing, as well as burst healing too, which is kind of cool if you activate your trait. And he also does infestation type pathogens, harmful ones to enemies, slowing them as well as doing damage to them too. So just going over his kit here, and then we'll just talk about our initial impressions of Stukov. And I'm interested to see what this bug is that Mystic's talking about. So his trait is called Bio Kill Switch. It's an activatable trait. It's on a cooldown of 16 seconds. So if you press D, it will detonate all of Stukov's active viruses. As I mentioned, there's healing ones, as well as the harmful ones you put on your enemies. Each healing pathogen heals a large amount to its target when you proc this. And each weighted pustule, which is the name of the bad pathogens, does small amounts of damage, which is about the damage of 1 auto attack. So it's not a terrible amount of damage, but it still does some. And it slows its target by 70% for 2 seconds. So fairly sizable slow. And it can be cast also while you're channeling one of your other abilities, which is a channeled ability called Lurking Arm. So he's got 3 basic abilities. The first is Healing Pathogen on his Q. This is how you spread your Healing Pathogen. You point and click on your allies. It costs 30 mana. It's on a 10-second cooldown. You infest an allied hero with a Healing Pathogen that heals the target for a fairly sizable amount of health, 240 health over 4.5 seconds. Healing pathogens can spread to nearby allied heroes every 0.75 seconds. So if you're in range of someone who's infested with the pathogen, they'll spread it around. So you can do really good area healing as well. The healing pathogens, okay, they spread, and then they can only be spread to each hero once. So once you've spread to a hero, it can't come back to you, then go back to them again indefinitely. It's not like good old Kael'thas's indefinite bombs they used to have. It's more like, like they can only be spread once to each hero. Weighted pustule. Question, LiQuid.
I was just gonna point out, but at 20, there is a talent that will override that.
There is. There's some.
And it is awesome.
There are some interesting. Well, questionably awesome. I tried playing around with it. I wonder as to its effectiveness. We'll talk about that, I guess, as we go along. I guess we're not really going over the talent tree now, but we can talk about when we get to the discussion. But after we go over the kit. So weighted pustule on his W is 50 mana on a 10-second cooldown. So the same cooldown as healing pathogen. You hurl a pustule in a straight line that impacts all enemy heroes in its path, dealing damage and slowing by 5%. But this is kind of cool. I think this is the first mechanic we have like this, but the slow actually increases to 50% over 3 seconds. So it's an increasing slow instead of a decaying one. It deals additional damage upon expiring or being removed. Finally, his E is Lurking Arm, 60 mana, 8-second cooldown. You channel at a target location, creating an area probably similar to like a Malfurion root size that silences enemies inside and deals decent sustained damage to the enemies in the area. It does actually a fair amount of damage too. It has about constant DPS pressure you'd get from a standard auto attacker, just kind of your average auto attacker, but in an area of effect, which is kind of cool. It deals 50% reduced damage though to non-heroes. and it does not cost mana while you're channeling. So you can channel it indefinitely, and it lasts until it's canceled or interrupted. And it can be interrupted, not by damage, but by pushbacks or stuns or anything like that. So you are obviously really vulnerable because it is a channeled ability. Finally, he's got 2 heroics. Flailing Swipe, which is 100 mana on an 80-second cooldown. You swipe 3 times in front of Stukov, dealing damage to enemies hit and knocking them away. Each swipe is larger than the previous one. And I don't even have any sort of like ability to reference this to. It's got a fairly large kind of cone. It's like a really large Leoric swing, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a larger version of March of the Black King.
Yeah, but like probably 2 or 3
bigger,
times.
though.
Yeah, and each
it's
one
almost like 180 degrees in front of Stukov. It's pretty huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gets bigger with each successive swipe. So you like swipe, 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 and the third one is massive. And it's cool because it's got a pretty serious pushback to it as well as the damage. So it's got that kind of gusting ability to control the zone and push heroes away for a disengage type situation, which will be great for stealing. Well, I guess maybe not stealing bosses, but keeping the other guys away from your boss if they're coming in. His other ability, which has gotten a lot of press, is Massive Shove. It's on a 20-second cooldown, so extremely short cooldown. And when I saw Massive Shove and Flailing Swipe, I was like, okay, Massive Shove is going to be the trap talent, but it's on a 20-second cooldown, so it makes it a little bit more attractive, and it only costs 50 mana. So Massive Shove, what it does is it extends Stukov's infested arm. It's a bit of a skill shot, but it's a pretty big one. It's easy to hit. If it hits an enemy hero, they're rapidly shoved backwards in the direction you're pushing them until they collide with terrain, and when they do that, they take damage. Is there a stun there too? I think there might be. Anyway, Stukov gains 50 armor while shoving the enemy and is locked in place while shoving, which kind of sucks that he can't move during this. But the cool thing is it'll go back indefinitely through anything. Even like you can push them back through enemy gates. Anything that they can walk through as pathable terrain, they can be pushed back behind. So I was testing it out a little bit. You can actually push them like in, well, I say early game, but after you get your heroic through their gates all the way back to the core if you angle it right. So you can go all the way back as far as, as you have a clear line of sight through gates and all. You can't push it through your gates though, because that's impathable terrain to the enemy. So you can't like go behind them and do like a Muradin haymaker type move where you push them back through your fort. He will be stopped at your wall. So
but pushing them to your wall is still a valid,
still an awesome move, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not
imagine
as
if
awesome.
if
push them back to your core.
Their core. No, if you're in their core and then push them all the way the other way, right? Like it's gonna be a while till they get back. So.
Yeah, but it's also gonna be a while before you can do anything because you're standing there pushing someone back. So I don't know. I guess it's gonna be interesting to see which one kind of comes forward here. I can see why they put Massive Shove on a shorter cooldown because most of the time you're not going to be pushing them back terribly far, but it's a great interrupt for most kind of abilities like an ETC mosh pit. You can interrupt it from quite a ways back and push people and zone pretty well with this ability. So initial impressions. Mystic, you off camera before we started, you were laughing at how Stukov deals with hammer. You want to tell us about that?
Oh yeah, so Stukov's lurking arm, it's an AoE silence, right? And so hammer, a lot of hammers like to siege up and just blow the crap out of your gates and forts and whatnot. However, when Stukov puts the silencing AoE lurking arm right under hammer, she can't actually move because she can't unsiege because that's an ability. She can't press the Z button because that's also an ability. And so since she can't move unless you have like the 16 talent with I guess the movable like hover tank talent,
hover tank or whatever
then,
it's called,
then you're just completely trapped because you're just there until either your teammates can push Stukov off, like interrupt him, or you die.
It's funny.
I feel
like that's an oversight by Blizzard.
Well, I think it's I don't know that it's an oversight. I think it's hammer players beware. And Stukov becomes like a straight up counter, right? In a way.
Don't siege
skill, right? Or definitely go hover siege mode at 16.
Yeah, and I mean you can make the same argument for like Chromie can almost one-shot hammer if she's sieged up too in a lot of situations too, right? So hammer's got a lot of counters and there's a good reason for that. If hammer didn't have counters, hammer would be a bit of a problem. So,
hammer would be in every game.
Yeah, and your lurking arm has to be within hammer range, so you can still shoot Stukov back while he's silencing you. You can definitely out DPS him if he's the only one there. You still have to rely on your team to make that engage. So there is a little bit of burden of execution on the team with Stukov, and you can stun Stukov and push him back out of that. And you can blow him up, you can kill him. He's not attacking during it too. So I mean, I guess there's counters to Stukov who's countering Sergeant Hammer, but still funny nevertheless. So one thing I found, I played Stukov a couple times in the PTR after waiting for over 9,000 seconds for the queues. Actually, Mystic, what's this bug you're talking about? You're talking about a bug that Stukov's got in the PTR with his healing?
Yeah. So Stukov's bug right now is he has a level, I believe it's level 4 talent where it's called Vigorous Reuptake or something. If you detonate 50 healing pathogens with Bow Kill Switch, then it increases Bow Kill Switch's healing by 50%.
Right.
So, that's a great talent. It's really good late game, such like it heals so much. But the bug is right now is that quest is always completed no matter what stage in the game you are. Even if you haven't taken the quest yet, you get it just for being Stukov and you're just in the game. That's the bug right now. So every Stukov just heals half of their health and like half of everybody's health, like as just it's pretty insane.
Maybe that's why the healing seemed to be so good for him too. Because
yes.
I think I was taking that talent most of the time.
It'll still be like looking at the other talents on that tier. It'll still end up being the go-to, because it's relatively easy to get to detonating 50. It's like if you figure you get 10, you really only need 10 where all 5 of your team get it, and then you pop it, and then right. It's not that hard. It won't be early, but it'll probably hit you around 10 or 13 where you finish that quest. And then, 50% more healing. Like, Lucios of the world are crying tears into their milk right now because of that.
Into their Lucios.
Yeah. The one thing I noticed about Stukov playing him is that he can pump out 2 kinds of healing, which typically you only get one from your healers. You get that kind of like slower bright wing style, like area of effect, heal everyone up, top everyone off. I mean, that's how Malfurion, I guess, used to be, or arguably I guess still is. But he can also do a lot of burst healing too. Like if you activate his bio kill switch, you should be, because it gives additional healing on top of what it typically does. It's not like it just kind of makes it finish faster, but you get a really big burst amount of healing. Like, some of it might have been because I took that talent and I didn't realize the quest talent automatically completed. But like, I was saving Illidan's who were like, next to no health, putting up to like 50% health, which is a fairly sizable heal. It felt almost like a bit of a mini ancestral and on like a very short cooldown in a lot of ways.
It is. There were a couple of pros that tweeted the same thing. It's like a mini ancestral every like 15 seconds.
Like, area too, because you can do it to as many people as the virus spreads to, so you could technically have it on 5 people too, which is a huge. It's like amp it up on Lucio, but like
right,
as well as the ancestral too. They kind of like the both combined, because you can just give a Q and then proc your D right away and give that right away. Obviously now your only healing ability is on a 10-second cooldown. However, it's pretty handy to have that. So
I AI'd a couple of games with him, and the only thing I really struggled with was at 16. Like, everybody likes the bio kill switch no longer removes the healing pathogen, but refreshes its duration, which seems like a really good talent, right? But that's the same one that says healing pathogen can continually spread through Stukov, but it's reduced, right? And I don't know. I kind of like the put it out once and then you just keep bouncing it around.
Yeah, I'd like to play with that a little bit more too, because it felt really weird how it worked. Like, I assumed it would always be on you, but it does go away. And I guess if it's not going back and forth, not bouncing, and you'll eventually lose it.
Right.
So
it was really clunky too, because I was just doing it in like 1-man 10-player AI games, right? So I just like bypass the queue, go in with AI, and at least play with it a little. It felt clunky, but I couldn't tell how much of that was because I was playing with bots versus like the talent itself. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, we're definitely going to be going like deeper into his builds and everything once we have more time. But there are some really interesting talents throughout his kit too. Like we mentioned, one of the coolest things I think is level 1, how you can change him from being a melee assassin to a ranged not assassin, melee healer to a ranged healer. I mean, you do sacrifice some damage, but it's nice not to have to get up close and personal, especially if you already have a lot of melee on your team.
But then it's like, well, is that the right one? Because there's some other good ones at one. Like it, I don't know. He feels like this is the second healer I'll actually enjoy playing, at least from AI, right? Like I love playing Karazim. I have no problem playing Karazim and Lili. So I guess this would be third. I don't know. It's cool. It's a cool design. I like it.
Yeah. One neat thing that I first was like, this guy's gonna have horrible lane clear because his pustules only work on heroes. You can't spread them to minions or anything like that. But then one thing I did notice is that lurking arm can actually be kind of used to lane clear because it's got, you know, fairly, you can almost get a whole wave in the lurking arm, and it does some decent DPS to all the minions inside that wave. The only problem is you're standing there, and if you've got a laning partner on the other team, you're likely going to get wailed on. But you can clear waves if you're by yourself, not extremely quickly, but decently fast, which is kind of nice.
I'm always reminded of the one thing Dreadnought said that like always stuck with me. At the point of the game that your healer is soaking for you, you've lost the game. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yes, but sometimes you're the only person left on the map, and you just got to do some of these things, right? Or maybe you're a horrible player like me, and you find yourself laning for whatever reason as Stukov.
Well, you have to, right? Well, especially if you get like the wrong, like a team full of, we're gonna 4-man rotate, but leave the healer. Like, what?
And it happens. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about on Stukov here? I think he looks pretty powerful, actually. Do you guys have that kind of a feeling as well? What have you guys been hearing?
I will be surprised if he makes it to live the way he is right now. And if he does, holy crap, is Reddit gonna explode?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough to predict. Like, I think my last round of PTR predictions were horribly wrong, thinking Thrall was going to be strong and Malthael wasn't. But it's always tough to tell.
I feel like he's more OP than Malthael is, and people are still complaining that Malthael hasn't been nerfed enough. So, like, what's going to happen when he gets released?
Yeah, well, he's definitely fun to play, so it'll be interesting to see how he shakes out. I mean, the problem with PTR, too, and I came across it when I was playing a couple PTR games today that I got into. You get such a wide variety of skill. I feel like none of them are ever even matches, or it's so rare. You always get, you have a couple bronze players, a couple like masters players playing with like poor old me somewhere in the middle, and like one team might just stomp the other team, and you just can't.
Right.
You got 3 healers on one side, you got a Xul, a Zagara, and some other pusher on the other side. You just can't really have an accurate assessment of what they're going to be like in a proper environment until you get them coming into the live game. So,
and you know what? The only thing that I take out of all that is, kids, if you're listening to this at home, please play the PTR for the love of God.
PTR is funny. It's funny when you get the salt in the PTR, and everyone's like, "Man, it's just the PTR. Like, this doesn't affect anything. We're just trying out new stuff, right?" So I don't know why people are like, losing it over losing.
You picked the worst talent in the world. Like, dude, I'm on PTR.
Like, I'm trying them out. Yeah. And like I mentioned, I played a lot of Xul in the PTR team. We're going to talk about him a little bit later in the show, but we wanted to get Stukov out of the way before we hit LiQuid's eSports corner. And cue the new soundboard, go.
Hey, yo, how you doing? It's time for LiQuid's eSports corner. That's right. And you're going to want to stick around for this.
Take it away, LiQuid.
All right, man. All right. So I'm just going to start with saying the same thing that we're going to be discussing tonight on Trolling HGC. What is going on with Phase 2? Like, seriously, I have no words. So some crazy stuff happened. Team Expert beat both Zealots, which, okay, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Zealots came in pretty strong from Open Division. But they also beat Team Dignitas. Like, wait a minute. Did that just happen? Like, Dignitas lost to Team Expert? Like, what? But the hits kept on coming because we saw Tempo Storm lose to GFE. Okay, well, GFE was, a solid number 2 team before midseason brawl and made some changes. We kind of expected that. But no Tomorrow coming out of nowhere and beating Tempo Storm. Like, holy crap, that just happened. And that was Sunday night, and that was crazy. But then in Korea, MVP Black beats L5 3-0. Like I just don't. I told Bacon and I, or not Bacon, I'm sorry, Bags and I, are both doing the Master League Challenge, right? And so you go in and you pick your winners and you pick your losers. And it started off and he was smoking me. Like, he was just crushing me. I think he was at one point, like, I was in the 200s and he was like top 50 or something like that. But we're a little closer now. I think he's 95 and I'm like 114. I'm catching up. But nobody, like, predictions, nobody was calling those games. Those games were crazy. Go watch them. There were some crazy good games this weekend. Rich on anything is just phenomenal to watch. But Rich on Malthael is like, dude, like, just lay down, let them have the core and walk away because the game is over. He's killing people. He has no health, but he's still pushing and killing people. It was crazy. But that's the power of Malthael in its current form. This weekend, HGC will be playing on the current patch that we're on with the balance adjustments to Malthael. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. But off to current standings. So we are actually getting good results out of all four major regions right now. I do have one thing I'm actually going to throw out real quick. Nomia has qualified for mid-season brawl. Wait, no, I'm sorry. For Western Clash. I said mid-season brawl because I had that in my mind, right? Yeah. Nomia from Australia has already qualified for Western Clash. So we'll see them again at the next international, which is just over a month away. But current standings in China, HGC China, we have number 1 is Team CE and number 2 is Super Perfect Team. So not really a big change there, especially since E-Star said, yeah, we're pretty much done here. Their whole team split and went off to play a handheld MOBA, which to me is still weird, but that thing's doing crazy numbers in China, so follow the money, right? And then HGC Korea, we have... All right, I need to take a minute because, like, when I saw this and I realized this is the state we're in, I was completely blown away. But number 1 is Mighty and number 2 is Tempest right now. And yes, you heard me correctly. There is no MVP Black and there is no L5 on the top of the standings in Korea right now.
How's that
I
make
don't
any
know,
sense?
Man. I don't know. That is where we are. That is the state we're in right now, though. All right, so going over to EU, again, a little weird, but, you know, Team LiQuiud was doing okay before midseason brawl. They just didn't make it. So number 1, Fnatic. Number 2, Team LiQuiud. No big surprise there other than, you know, Dignitas not being in the top 2, but not far off. But over in NA, number 1, GFE. That's cool because I love GFE, right? So that kind of makes me happy. Number 2, No Tomorrow. Like, just let that sink in for a minute. Number 2 is No Tomorrow. And it's not like they had an easy, you know, point to this, you know, first couple of weeks. They beat Tempo Storm. And they are number 2 now. Like, holy crap, what?
Is this just things not playing out quite the way people expect yet, or is this more just like there's more parity than we expected?
So I think Bacon and I tonight are going to, like, really dive into this because we have a lot of time to talk about this and we're going to take the time to talk about it tonight. But I think my gut feeling is teams have made changes and they have not all settled into those changes yet. The only team that hasn't made a change is Tempo Storm. So, which is fine. I'm, like, not dissing that. That's cool. I actually support that. But they're the only team that, well, I think there was one other team that didn't make changes. I'd have to go back and check all the moves because there were a ton of moves, you know, during the roster apocalypse that we had. So I think teams are, like, adjusting to who they're playing with. Like, Superstars has been struggling, and I think if you look at Superstars, they changed, like, who is playing what, which was very weird to me and a couple other people. I think TBK Zord and I were talking about that on Twitter, or a couple other people. Like, it was weird that they moved. They took their tank player off tank, and I don't know. Like, I question some of the things these teams are doing, but then I come back to, well, you know, like, they're pros. Like, shouldn't they know what they're doing? And maybe I'm missing something, and I don't know. Part of it, though, I think is just, like, who's settling in and who's not. But on the same token, GFE got back from midseason brawl, integrated a new member in their team, and they're sitting number 1 right now. So it's hard to say, well, you know, like, you made a change and how much practice time did you have? You know, Naventic still looks like they're struggling. It was like one day in and they're like, yeah, Tomster's not going to be our or I'm sorry, Big E's not going to be our support player anymore. Thompson's going to take that over. Like, one game in, man. You gave the guy one series to do this.
You ready for an analogy? It's
Sure.
like you took a bottle of salad dressing, like an oil-based salad dressing, and you shook it up, right? And everything gets all nice mixed together, but the layers haven't quite settled where you'd expect them quite yet. So maybe it's a matter of having just the bottle settle to see what kind of comes out of it.
So I think what's going to be interesting for me.
But a shaken up bottle of salad dressing is delicious.
I mean, that's actually a really good analogy. And I think where this is going to settle for me, at least right now, is the Western Clash and the Eastern Clash are going to be some teams that maybe didn't make it in the previous phase. But I think phase 2, part 2, leading up to BlizzCon, that's where things are really going to settle. And that's where we'll see teams like, no, man, I deserve to be at BlizzCon. Stay home because that's my ticket.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the top 3 teams from all the major divisions go to BlizzCon?
Yes.
Perfect. So,
and they're playing the week before we go out there for all the like group play and stuff, so that they'll only have because they only have 2 days to do actual BlizzCon stagey stuff. So, and I'll be there the whole time, except when I have to leave to do World of Podcast stuff, sitting in the front row, holding our seats.
If you're wondering where to find LiQuiuD, the best seat in the house. He'll be sitting there the whole time.
The whole time. I will only leave if I have to leave for some reason. I guess we're gonna do some World of Podcast stuff while we're out there, and we're doing some Heroes Hype stuff while we're out there too. So I might have to leave for those things, but otherwise, yeah, I'll be in those seats.
You can tag me and I'll take your spot for.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to because I don't want to lose those pretty seats. So all right. The only other thing I wanted to go over real quick, just Open Division. So NA Open Division Cup number 1. Wait, I flipped tabs. Went over to Players Unknown, which great solid team. They Hold It Down 2-1. And in the EU Division, Cup number 2, Bushido Esports won again this week, 2-1 over Leftovers. Players Unknown and Bushido Esports, 2 solid teams. They have been, I don't want to say around for a while. The players of both those teams have been around for a while, and are looking to, make something stick and perhaps get in the next Crucible, which will set the teams for the 2018 season. So, yes.
That's LiQuiuD. We need you to have some sort of sign off phrase or something, so I know when you're done too. Bazinga!
That's all I got, man. No.
And that's LiQuiuD's esports corner.
Yeah, there you go.
You, Daz.
That'd be the easiest thing, right?
It would. I'll have to remember that next time.
So we had a patch for the PTR on Monday.
Wait, hold on. Wait, I gotta throw something out there because it just clicked. You know why I don't do that? Because typically when I finish, you come up with stuff you want to talk about with it. So I'm like, I can't just finish because then you start popping off questions. I'm like, oh yeah, let's talk about it.
And then we double the length of the segment, which is why Trolling HGC was born.
Exactly. Trolling HGC, 9:30 right here on twitch.tv/trollsgg.
Yeah, if you don't get enough of your esports fix from this little segment, LiQuiuD and today, Bacon, but normally Bags will be going over in depth all that is esports related Heroes of the Storm content. But we had a PTR patch on Monday, July 3rd, day before Independence Day. Well, happy Independence Day, by the way, all my American friends.
Happy Canada Day.
Yes, Canada Day. We celebrate ours first, so we get out of the way before all the Independence Day rigmarole comes through. It's our 150th birthday, too, so it seems like a pretty low number for a country, but it was a pretty big one for us. So there was a lot of celebrations up in Canuck land. So anyways, the PTR, we're not here to talk about Canada Day. We're here to talk about the PTR patch. So there's a lot of stuff that came out of this. Some changes to Hanamura and a Xul rework were the 2 biggest things. There's some little kind of side notes that we're going to go over first, though. First off, if you're like me or LiQuiuD, you might have multiple monitors set up. You queue up for a game and you start doing other things on your desktop. Well, the minimized client will now retake focus in some situations where it wasn't before. Like if that matchmaking queue gets interrupted because a person left that you're playing with has left the game, it will now refocus that window, as well as if a game is found, which I'm pretty sure it did before, or when the draft is canceled from someone dropping the draft. So So that's good to know that, you know, your Windows PC will refocus the window, or I'm guessing this is probably the same on iOS or any other operating system that you might somehow cobble together to get to play Heroes of the Storm. An interesting thing that I never even actually noticed. This is probably something I bet you Mystic probably knew about this. That I didn't realize that when a fort or keep was destroyed, the screen shakes. Did you guys ever notice that before?
It's not huge, but yes.
Yeah, I wonder.
I didn't know they were gonna let you turn it off. I'm like, why are you letting us turn this off? This is like a good thing.
Well, I feel like for like extremely high level, maybe it kind of like made you misclick or something, right? I'm not sure how aggressive the shaking is, but you know, any sort of changing of the mapping of where everything is could potentially be an issue. I'm assuming that's why they did it. Is this something that you're gonna be jumping on disabling, Mystic? You're the best player of the three of us.
I think the screen shaking is very minimal, so it doesn't. I mean, I think I've gotten used to it, so it's not like as big of a deal. So it's not that big of a deal.
Well, for people like me, I didn't even notice. But if you did notice and you want to disable it, you now can. Well, as soon as the PTR goes live, anyhow. There's emoji auto completion in chat, and this one's actually very useful for old man Daz, because I still like do like the colon smiley face, but then you do like, I'm like, how do I put I still don't know how to do Twitch modes, by the way. Someone's got to teach me how to do those. I remember trying to do it a show way back when, and actually like I typed it out and it like popped up the wrong thing. It's such like an old man grandpa thing to do, but anyhow, it auto completes now. So if you press colon and you start typing in like cheese or whatever, like you'll see all the potential emotes come up, so you can actually figure out what it is instead of guessing. Like you might think like, you know, colon smiley might be one, but it's not actually one. So you can actually see before you make a fool of yourself, like old man Daz here. And
I needed this just because there are so many emojis now.
I know it does come in handy, and you know, so it's good to have in the game. So Team League, if you're in queue, like as we all know, 2-man queues can be pretty long, and you used to get warnings saying, okay, this is going to be a long time, maybe you want to find a third person. Well, now it's actually going to tell you the estimated time to wait for a 3-man or a 5-man comp in that kind of warning. So now you'll actually see how much time benefit you get. I think this is Blizzard gently shoving people into 3-man and 5-man queues to get Team League queues down. We also have a new map rotation too. This is going to go live as soon as the PTR hits the live version of our servers. The new map rotation is Hanamura, wow, Dragonshire, Tomb of the Spider Queen, Cursed Hollow, Infernal Shrines, Garden of Terror, Warhead Junction, Haunted Mines, and Towers of Doom. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, LiQuiD and Mystic, this is only for ranked play. In unranked and quick match, you still get all maps, and that was a change that was made, I think, a patch or two ago. So notable additions, I believe Warhead Junction and Haunted Mines are popping in here. I'm not sure which ones are dropping out in favor of those.
So I want to throw two things out there about this. One is, of course, Hanamura had to be there. They're changing Hanamura, so they weren't going to not put it in the ranked rotation. But second, I've lost track of the number of people on Twitter that have complained and said, please, Blizzard, for ranked, just give us HGC map pool.
Yeah.
Call it a day. Like, there's no reason to, like, not. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the argument that I've seen that, you know, the HGC map pool is locked in pretty early, right? So you wouldn't be able to have Hanamura in ranked, and also what might be good for ranked, like for ranked play, might be different for that's good for like pro play as well.
I mean, yeah, but like the point that I see made most often that I actually tend to agree with is you want your ranked players emulating the pros to a certain degree. So you get that kind of like they're watching the pros figure out the pros play, then they want to go do that. And they can't because
so many bad Abathurs and Genjis have been trying to emulate the pros recently. I know what you mean.
Fair enough.
So Hanamura got some changes that LiQuiD just mentioned a couple of seconds ago there. So it seems like they're trying to address some of the issues on Hanamura. We've talked about this in depth. There's that whole siege push strat that you get on Hanamura where, you know, if you get in a lot of cases getting down forts and keeps and getting your siege sappers pushing in lane is more powerful than actually the payloads. You can actually win with getting like one payload in the boss, or even just not even getting payloads, just pushing lanes as hard as you can. And that wasn't a great game mechanic. I think we can all agree. Also, the games are pretty short, so I think they were trying to get the game time to be a bit longer. So they've increased the core life from 7 to 8. The sapper minions are no longer going to spawn in lane, so there's a little bit less incentive to push out lane all the way. So you won't get sapper minions after keeps are destroyed. The map objective timings have changed a little bit. First payload now spawns 15 seconds later than it used to. Second payload spawns, again, 15 seconds later than it used to. And payloads now grant experience. It says 1,200 experience. I'm not actually sure in-game how much that equates to. I didn't end up playing any on Hanamura upon reaching their destination, but I imagine it's a sizable amount probably to promote taking those payloads in to get that level lead as well. They didn't, surprisingly enough, adjust the mercenary XP or how easy it is to bribe mercenaries, but they did change mercenaries a little bit. The fortification camp, the turret power-ups that you can get from that camp will now prioritize attacking heroes. The health has been increased by 10%, and the turrets will now deal double damage to minions. So they've buffed the turrets a little bit. And those turrets were actually fairly tanky to begin with. So that's an interesting change there. I guess they want to try and encourage putting those on the payloads and walking the payload in. Recon camps, the dragon spirits, the power up that you get from those will no longer dismount enemy heroes. And finally, the support camp got a bit of a buff to its little mercenary minion there. The initial spawn time is increased by 15 seconds. That's just to correspond with the first payload. The timing's always been the same there. Health total was decreased by 10%. Basic attack damage was decreased by 12%. And the attack damage scaling was reduced by roughly 60%. The self-heal ability cooldown was increased by 2 seconds as well. So a little bit easier to take those support camps than it used to be, maybe discouraging bribe and promoting jungling heroes a bit more. So do you guys think we're going to see more people liking Hanamura? I mean, I've had some good games in Hanamura.
Nah, no change. I mean, look, the changes they made needed to be made, but I don't think we're going to see more people like, oh my God, Hanamura is great. I don't think we're going to get that.
Yeah, you never know. People might come around eventually. I don't know if these are necessarily the changes that are going to do that. I remember hating Towers of Doom when it started, but no, I love that map. So
everybody hated. I was the only one out of everybody that I was close friends with. Was like, dude, this map is the greatest. And everybody's like, I hate this map. This map sucks. I'm like, no. This is the coolest map. And they're like, no, we hate this map.
You're such a hipster. Now do you have to hate it because everyone likes it?
I still like Towers of Doom. It's one of my favorite maps to play and to cast. But I still dislike Hanamura. I don't know. Yeah. I see what they're trying to do there, but I don't know. I could never be a game developer.
Hopefully small steps in the right direction, I guess. Okay, we had a change to Ragnaros. Nothing huge, but worth mentioning. When Molten Core expires, and for those of you, I mean, most of you probably know what Molten Core does, where he takes over the forward to keep. The camera will now snap back to Ragnaros if he's not on the screen. And that's kind of important because, you've got such a big range. You're throwing down your abilities really far away, and sometimes it's hard to really visually know or visually see when your Molten Core is expired. This way it snaps back, and you're not trying to cast abilities off screen when you obviously can't anymore. So I guess it's a good change there.
I saw in typical Reddit fashion people complaining about this.
Of course. That's what Reddit does, right?
I'm looking at other things, and don't make my camera go back. I don't want it to go back. Okay, bro, relax. I mean, I guess I could get it if you're not locked, but still. You can't do anything with Molten Core if you're not looking at where you're going to aim.
Well, see, here's the thing. I can see why people are complaining about this because just, not that long ago, right? Blizzard removed the thing where it's if you Hearthstone back, it snaps you back to the Hall of Storms. But now you're Ragnaros, and then when your Molten Core ends, they're snapping you back to Ragnaros where you could just press the spacebar. So I don't know.
I guess maybe a better solution would have been to make it a bit more obvious once Molten Core ends. Then you can always press the spacebar, like you said, right, to snap back if you wanted to. So that would be, I guess, maybe a good compromise. That was the problem that if there was a problem that I guess I was having was just not knowing when it was over right away and trying to cast abilities and that you can't cast anymore.
Well, maybe it's a thing where you say, is the camera set to snap or to lock? If it is, snap back. If it's not,
here, do this. This will be much cooler. When you're in Molten Core, around your entire border of the screen, make little fiery effects, you're in Sanctification. Yeah, except they're all fiery, and then when it ends, all that stuff goes away. So you're like, oh, I must be out of Molten Core.
Or when you're gorged by
cities. Yeah. Or right click real quick. Yeah. Right, just to move. Yeah. That's way better.
Go figure. A little footnote in the patch notes will incite Reddit's wrath, but that's the way
Right.
they work. So Xul got pretty hefty rework, and I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this patch. So Xul, I think, was in some dire need of some lovin' after. Jesus, that sounded
Is that
wrong.
really how you want to say that?
The guys over the Gank Bush squad would like that. Anyways, he was in dire need of some lovin'. So Blizzard gave him some. He's been displaced most recently by a lot of heroes that have kind of come in doing his job better in most situations. He really just wasn't the best pick. There was always a better person to take rather than him. His team fight damage was lacking. His wave clears and push can be good, but it can still be done better by, like, for instance, our chair league team, our Xul player did quickly transition over to Probius because he found that Probius did more in team fights, could push just as well as Xul, and provide great zoning and as well on top of that. So anyhow, they've decided to give Xul a bit of a rework to see if they can help find his place back into our hearts. So they've done quite a few things, giving him more talent diversity options, some buffs here and there, and some new survivability options as well. It can potentially turn him into like a bruiser team fighter type Xul as well, depending on how you talent into him. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to talk about just a couple of the abilities that changed, and then I'm going to talk about some of his potential builds, and we're going to go over those because I can kind of see after looking over the PTR patch and playing Xul several times over the past few days, kind of the ways that it looks like Blizzard wants us to take with in terms of talent synergy. So we'll just talk about those as we go and comment on them accordingly. But first, okay, so his abilities, he got some mana reduction on Spectral Scythe and Curse Strikes. So Xul's always been a little bit mana hungry, so that helps out there. And another little change, a little subtle one, but an important one nevertheless, all active skeleton warriors will now fixate on the target of Bone Prison. So as soon as you put a Bone Prison down, if you got a whole bunch of skeleton warriors there, they're all going to turn over and start attacking that dude. So you get more damage on whoever your Bone Prison target is if you're fighting in lane. So just be aware about fighting a Xul in lane. But level 4 is really where you can start choosing your build path with the new Xul. And there seems to be really 3 potential builds here. And these ones I came up with, I'm sure Mystic and LiQuiuD might have some comments on how I might be horribly wrong, or maybe some of these aren't actual good build paths, but we'll talk about that later. The ones that I identified anyway was a skeleton build, a Scythe build, maybe like more of a poke build, and a Cursed Strikes bruisery type build, like melee assassin build. So going to go over these, starting with the Curse Strikes Bruiser build, because I kind of find it the most interesting. And I wish I got a chance to play this in the PTR, but unfortunately, just the way that the quick matches were set up, there wasn't enough frontline on the team to make sense of it. And I think that's what you really have to have in this. You have to have a lot of melee on the other team to take advantage of it. It's very much like Malthael. You need to have a lot of heroes clumping up to get the best out of this kind of talent build. So what you're looking at here with this Curse Strikes build is you're using your Curse Strikes to heal yourself up, do damage, and maintain your survivability in the fray of things, something that Xul couldn't really do in the past. So how do we do this? At level 1, we're looking at Shackler. This is the never picked bone armor augment that slows enemy heroes in a radius round. I don't think I've actually ever taken this talent until I played it in the PTR. So it gives a slow in your area a slow in your area, but also now what they've added to this in the PTR is if you auto attack a hero who's slowed, rooted, or stunned, you get 2 seconds off the 30-second cooldown of bone armor. So suddenly you can look at the situation where this is going to be up a lot more often, which makes it a little bit more enticing. Plus, it gives you that little CC as well. So one thing to note, and I went into try mode to try this too. One interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people realize, Curse Strikes, if you read what the ability does, is it makes your auto attacks damage a large area. That's what Curse Strikes does. So anything you hit with a Curse Strike, that counts as an auto attack for reducing the cooldown of this. So if you're slowing in an area around you and you're Curse Striking 3 or 4 heroes at a time, you're getting like 8-10 second reductions on your cooldown of your bone armor with one single swipe of each Cursed Strike. So pretty powerful. It's not just single auto attacks, it's your whole area damage. So as you can see, if you have a lot of people clustering around you, suddenly Shackler can be a little bit more enticing because that's a lot of survivability and slows you can get from that. So to augment this as well, let's start looking at the rest of the talents you take. At level 4, the talent you'd probably be taking for this bruisery build would be Grim Scythe. This is obviously augmenting his Curse Strikes, which is pretty much the theme of this build. Every time Curse Strike damages enemies, reduces cooldown by 0.5 seconds up to 10 seconds. So you can get a lot of cooldown. Basically, if you work this right, you can almost be Curse Striking non-stop, especially later game. Level 7, there's Harvest Vitality. Curse Strikes heal Xul for 60% of the damage it deals to heroes. Now this is where the Bruiserish comes in, because this gives you your Malthael-esque self-healing that you pretty much need as a melee assassin. Almost every melee assassin has it to sustain yourself in the fight. They made a change to this, so 60% of the damage dealt to heroes is give back to you as healing. This used to be fixed heals, but now it's based on damage, so it's affected by armor, both positive and negatively. So it's like an important thing to note. Level 10, I used to never take Poison Nova, but I would take Poison Nova in this case, mostly because of the level 20 augment, which we'll get to later. But level 13, Rapid Harvest. Again, this augments Curse Strikes. When Xul damages an enemy with Curse Scythe, he gains Curse Strikes. He gains 5% attack speed for 3 seconds, up to 75%. This affects Curse Strikes too, because Curse Strikes are auto attacks. Curse Strikes last for 4 seconds as well, so you can get more strikes out than typical, and you get 75% attack speed addition. You can get a lot of auto attacks, a lot of healing back too, especially if heroes are clumping. Level 16, there's some choice here, but the one that I'd probably take is Amplified Damage. This is actually augments his Bone Prison, and it seems to have the most synergy because Bone Prison will the target of their Bone Prison will have an armor reduction of 25. This gives extra scythe healing because it's based on damage, not straight up just a level number. And then finally, level 20, Ondariel's Visage. This is the augment for Poison Nova that I mentioned before. Xul is healed for 50% of the damage done by Poison Nova, giving you more survivability when you're in the fray, and you're going to be in the fray if you're going to be a bruiser build. Skeleton Warriors also now become Poison Skeletons. This is the new addition, or one of the new additions to this talent, dealing 50% increased damage as well. So, guys, is Curse Strike's bruiser build for Xul going to be a thing? Mystic, what do you think?
I think it could totally be a thing. It's just so with this Scythe build that or the Curse Strikes build, then you're reducing the enemy auto attacks by a lot because you're just going to be in there all the time. It'll be really good versus like any Illidan's or melee heavy compositions because they won't be able to auto attack that much. I could totally see it working.
Yeah, it's interesting that you can tell the synergy that they kind of planned when they were, doing this rework here, and it seems pretty interesting. And it's a new way to play Xul, that's for sure. The question is, would you take him over your Malthaels or other melee assassins? Which, I mean, melee assassins have kind of fallen out of the meta a little bit. You don't see too many of them, like in the truest sense, with like Ragnaros starting to fall out. Like you don't see Kerrigan pretty much ever, except for that one map she's good on with the little minions and whatever that one's called. The name's for some reason escaping me. But I'm getting blank stares too. Infernal Shrines, that's the one. Yeah, thanks, LiQuid.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's other two builds too. There's more of like the typical push Xul build. Now I'll go over the talents here a little bit quicker because a lot of them are more situational. Level 1 that's the bone armor augment level. It's kind of situational what you want to take there. Level 4, you're going to want to take Jailers. This causes 2 skeletons to spawn when you cast Bone Prison. These do not count towards the maximum limit of skeletons you can own. And it's also quest now too. If after you spawn 80 Skeletal Warriors, you make your Skeletal Warriors change that they fixate on an enemy from a bone. When they fixate on an enemy in a Bone Prison, they gain 50% movement and attack speed too, so extra damage to those targets. Level 7, Trag'Ul's Essence has been changed a little bit. This gives you your health and mana regen in lane that Xul direly needs when he's solo laning or soaking 2 lanes even in some maps. Skeleton basic attacks restore 1% health and 0.4% mana. Now it's important to note this is changed a little bit. I mean, there was Trag'Ul's Essence as well as another one, I can't remember what it was called, that would give you health and or mana back based on like just rezzing skeletons. Now it's based on the basic attacks they do. So you want to try and keep your skeletons alive to maximize this. And one thing to note is it's not actually a ton of mana. 0.4% of your mana, when I was playing this, it trickles in pretty slowly. Level 10 is pretty situational. You can probably take either ultimate. Level 13, there's a cool new talent here called Echoes of Death. This is on your Q, so your little scythe that you throw out and it comes back to you. After an additional 1.5 seconds after casting that, 2 more spectral scythes appear next to the first and travel back to Xul, dealing 75% damage. And it's interesting the way they do it too. It's not from the same location. It's from almost like 45-degree angles from that one. So you got 2 pulling back to you from an angle. I mean, you can see the reticule when you cast this ability, see where they're going to come in, but it's kind of cool for a little extra damage. And finally, level 16, Corpse Explosion. Skeletal Warriors explode on death, bonus damage to non-heroic targets. Just get a little bit more in lane. I mean, there's can be arguments made for other talents on those tiers as well. And level 20 is also situational. So Xul, I mean, not a ton has changed here. There's some little changes, maybe arguably some buffs to his talent tree. Do we think Xul is going to be finding his spot back in the meta as that lane pusher? We see a lot more like Asmodan. I see TV the Tiny in chat there says he's an Asmodan main. He might have an argument that Asmodan trumps Xul, but can Xul trump heroes like Asmodan these days? Sad nod, not nods, shaking of the heads from LiQuiuD. Mystic, do you see a place for Xul, either this kind of as a pusher, or like where's his place going to be now?
See, I'm not sure because I see all this stuff that they changed about him, but he kind of plays the same. They've increased his laning power because of the jailer talent, in my opinion, because since it allows the skeletons to fixate, and after spawning 80 skeletons, right, they do 50% increased movement speed and 50% attack speed. They actually hurt a lot. If you're in lane and you get rooted, right? So they gave him a little bit more power on that. And then these other scythe builds and stuff, he kind of just plays the same. He's just a little bit stronger. So I don't know. I just have to see how things shake out, because I don't see him being particularly like super good at anything. Like he's kind of what he was, except now he's better at team fights.
Yeah, and I guess that's always been his downfall, is beyond the initial bone prison and a couple sweeps of his scythe, he didn't really have much to lend to the team fight long term. Well, what about the scythe build? I threw this in here too, just because the talents that didn't really shake into these first two kind of fell into more of like a pokey type build. So I'll go over the talents here, because there are some new ones too that maybe there's places for them in other builds. But level 1, again, situational with the bone armor augment. Level 4, there's a new talent here called Reaper's Toll for his Q. Again, the scythe build, I call it more of a pokey build, because scythe is more long ranged abilities. It gets you to throw out more scythes, do more damage with your scythe. So Reaper's Toll, it's a questing talent. Hit enemy heroes with your spectral scythe. After hitting 20 heroes, you reduce the cooldown by 3 seconds. I think it's on an 8-second cooldown, so that's a significant amount of reduction there. Level 7 and 10 are fairly situational. Level 13, Echoes of Death. That's where you get the 2 scythes spawning after the first. So, lower cooldown, more scythes. You can kind of throw those out more often. Level 16 is where Bone Spear has found its home instead of level 20. So it's an interesting place to put yet an extra button there. Of course, it's up against Corpse Explosion and Amplified Damage, which are 2 strong talents as well. So it's an argument, whether or not you want to take Bone Spear there. But if you're looking at poking, I guess Bone Spear is a good way to do that. And then level 20 is fairly situational as well. A couple talents that didn't make it into these builds that I kind of portray here that I did want to highlight too are a couple that are on talent level 20. There's Callan's Edict. This is a level 20 passive that's new for Xul. I don't know if it's strong or not. I was having problems coming to that conclusion. I didn't get a chance to pick it. Skeletal Warriors attacks reduce the cooldown of your heroic by 1%. It's kind of hard to get an idea of how often your Skeletal Warriors are actually attacking. So it's tough to say how fast this is going to have an impact on your heroic. But it's an interesting way to potentially get your heroic cooldowns drastically reduced, potentially. I mean, 100 attacks by your Skeletal Warriors takes it from 100 to 0. Obviously, you're going to have time elapsing during that, but maybe you get 25 attacks, reduce it by 25%. That's pretty significant amount of cooldown on your other abilities. And Cold Hand of Death, this is the Skeletal Mage augment. They've changed it a little bit. Instead of, before it was that you'd raise a skeletal mage from the dead body of a dead hero, but now they've just changed it so that the slow of the mages is going to be increased from 30 to 50%, and it no longer creates mages in place that are heroes, but instead there's a new passive that Skeletal Warrior attacks now slow enemies by 30% for 2 seconds. So if you get them kind of following along a hero, they're going to be slowing that hero down a little bit. So, what do you go ahead, LiQuiuD. I don't really know.
I was just gonna say, so TBU the Tiny pointed out that Braxis will be able to clear the wave with cooldown reductions. So Q plus Bone Spear is basically going to be bye-bye wave, which I kind of see. I don't know. I struggle with Xul, right? Because like the only way you're really going to bring him back into the meta is to make him more powerful than he is right now. But by doing so, you have to make him OP. Because you have to displace someone else, right? So like it's this weird thing, and it's a really fine line Blizzard has to walk, and I don't think they've gone quite far enough yet to bring him back. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how he shakes out over the next couple of weeks. So again, tough to evaluate. He's just in the PTR. But if nothing else, I imagine he'll be dabbled with a little bit by fellow Heroes of the Storm players over the next few weeks until we shake out to decide if he is any stronger than he was before or has a place at all. Do you ever see Xul in competitive at all? I know you watch pretty much every game. Does Xul ever pop up?
I'm trying to remember the last time I saw him. He used to. He definitely used to. Hold on. I'm just going to double check because it's pretty easy to actually check.
All right. While you're checking that too, maybe we'll talk about the last little side note for the PTR patch. And that's there's some new skins and new skin tints been released. Blizzard likes to hype it up being like, oh, look at these like 24 skins that have been released. Well, really, there's only 2. One of them, Stukov's like alternate release skin, the Admiral Krakenov, which looks pretty cool. Very like, squid-esque pirate type thing. And then Xul has a new one, Bone Visage Xul, probably to go along with his rework. All the other new skins are actually just different skin tints for existing ones. I'll just go over the list here. There's Archangel Oriole, Demonic Oriole has new skin tint. Timewalker Chromie has a leper skin tint. Archangel Diablo. Did I do that right? Yeah, Archangel Diablo. 2 Primeval Diablo new skin tints. There's a Shando Illidan skin tint. Spellbreaker Joanna. There's 2 Queen of Ghost Kerrigan tints. Archon Li Ming, Marauder Murden, Raider Rexar, Archangel Tyrael, and Necromancer Xul all got new skin tints. So getting new content into the game.
So I want to throw one thing out there too. It also looks like HGC team logos are coming in.
Oh yeah,
to sprays.
I saw that. That's pretty cool.
Which looks awesome. I'll be getting some of those sprays so I can spray them down.
So which one are you going to be supporting off the bat? GFE?
You know what? No, it'll probably be Roll20. It's tough. I don't know. It's tough. Like, the one advantage I have to not using a spray like that is I don't have to worry about, picking one team to support over another. Yeah.
Well, you know what?
So I'm not sure.
You know what team already has a spray in the game that you can already support today is the Cheese Crew. my team, because we've got our own spray. We're proactive. We just named our team after a spray.
I mean, I'm gonna say that I typically do support you guys when I play with you guys.
Well, thanks.
So.
Okay, well, the next segment I wanted to talk about too is something that we're going to be doing. I'll talk about what I'm doing, and then maybe like because he's been doing some of this with his wife as well. He's going.
Wait. Sorry. Before you jump into that, I'm sorry. Xul has been used 3 times in Phase 2. Once in Europe and twice in China. It was the Chinese games that were nagging at the back of my mind, because I thought I had seen them. I thought I had seen Xul played in China. But this is pre-rework Xul, so maybe there's a place, I guess.
Who knows? I was just more curious if he's shown up recently because I haven't seen him in any matches.
Yeah. Well, China, you have to watch Monday, Tuesday, right? Both of those games were on Tuesday. And then Europe was just this past weekend in the Team Expert. That's how they closed out their series against Team Dignitas, was with that.
Yeah, and so the segment I was starting to mention there is what we called last week, and when we're starting to talk about, we're going to call it Try Hard for Trolls, but we've augmented the name, and we're calling it Teaching to Troll. And we're going to start doing some more informative video segments. We're going to be streaming on Twitch. I've currently started the first one. It was this past Tuesday at, well, I would say noon, but we ended up having to start it a little bit later, so it was about 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I took my very noob friend Juice into the Nexus. The VOD is up on YouTube and Twitch. You can feel free to check it out. We also have we're going to put a spot on Trolls GG for teaching to troll. So I'm going to be doing day 2 with Juice next Tuesday around noon again, Eastern Standard Time. You can just follow us on Twitch to it at TheNexusTrolls. I'll be tweeting out when we're going live with that. But one thing I definitely found that was interesting is teaching someone who's never played a MOBA at all before is an interesting experience. He was even just struggling with like just the mouse, like right clicking. He was like, why is it all right clicking? Why isn't it left clicking? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
I remember that part. That was
and
funny.
There was a lot of like, I was trying to get him to play. Like, I started him on Rainer. I figured, okay, Rainer's an easy one. You just go up, you click, you use your abilities. I was trying to get him to follow me around. I was like, hey, let's go over to the objective. There's a map objective up, and he just the time he took to make decisions, even basic ones like mounting up and trying to like move around, were ones that I took for granted. He was like, why do you keep going on your horse? Like, what do you keep doing that for? And I was like, well, just things you take for granted are things you got to take a step back and explain to someone who's new to the game. So it's an interesting experience, especially when we got him on his Jaina. He could not use his abilities for the life of him. He did not understand. He was like, why is it QWE? Why isn't it ASDW like most other games? I was like, well, like, it's just, all your abilities are in a line on the keyboard. It makes sense to me. And he's like, well, it doesn't make it. I should start remapping my keys. I'm going to change like my mouse buttons, like switch left and right. I was like, you probably shouldn't start switching stuff, dude. I feel like that's like a short-term solution to your problem here. But anyways, it's interesting. Juice is a good friend of mine. So we're going to see how he kind of shakes out over the next few weeks as I teach him and hopefully get him to improve as well. And LiQuiuD, you're going to be doing something similar with Kitty, right?
Yeah. So we actually went to try and do that the same day, Tuesday. But we're both in the same room, and the mics we were using, I'm a loud guy. I know I'm a loud guy. You guys will experience that in person during BlizzCon. But the mic was picking us both up. So I actually ordered her a mic today that should be here Friday. Just a little one of those like snowball ice ones or something like that. I don't know. Not the Blue Yetis, but like the next step down. That is monodirectional. I think that's the word I want to go with.
So better for the situation.
Yeah, so hopefully it won't pick me up, or not as bad. Like, it was really bad. So yeah.
So what's Key's?
And then we'll get started.
What's your experience with Heroes of the Storm 2?
So we started playing together 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. Not really much. All right, so she has a couple QM games. She has a couple of AI, a bunch of AI games, because we've been doing AI games every day to make sure we get registered or entered into the sweepstakes with a single win every day. And like, let's be honest, it takes like 8 minutes to win a QM or an AI game, right? Like, you're just boom, you're in and you're done.
Oh, I lost a couple with Juice.
I saw those, man. And then I was like, wait, is he doing all AI? So you were in custom with 8 bots, it looked like.
Yeah, AI on our team, AI on the other team. I didn't want to like ruin anyone else's day, because we were just sitting there, like I was explaining game mechanics to him, like letting our AI friends push lanes and stuff for us while we were like practicing stuff. So I didn't want to subject poor other real people to that, even if they're on our team in an AI game. But yeah, interesting segment. We'll see how it goes. Mystic, I think you were talking about planning on doing it with someone who might be a little bit on the higher end of the spectrum too. So it might almost be like, I've got the beginner. LiQuiuD has someone who's at least played like World of Warcraft and stuff before, so has a bit more like experience with these kind of like non-first person shooter type games. And Mystic might be doing some more high level teaching too, I guess, down the road as well. Cool. So guess what that means it's time for here. LiQuiuD,
is it time for you to lose? It's time for you to lose. Yay!
It's time for me to figure out where my soundboard went among my mess of windows. Here we are. It's time for the Hots debate.
True power resides in the dark side of the Force.
No. Quicker. Easier. More seductive, perhaps.
This is not a matter of debate.
A debate? This has become.
I want to give a little shout out to Super Fatty and Zex in the chat there. Zex was our guest last week, too. As we said, the cheekiest Chen in NA, and I know you like that because he mentioned it on his show as well. But hey, guys, how's it going? Anyhow, we're going to be starting a segment now. If you've never heard it before, it's called the Hots Debate. This is round number 7. It's an important round because LiQuiuD is getting pretty high of himself because I believe he's won the last 2 or 3. putting him at the top of the standings. He's currently 3-1, looking for his 4th victory. And the person trying to dethrone him this week is going to be none other than myself, Daz. So the topic that we're going to be debating this week is that stealth is a healthy game mechanic in Heroes of the Storm. Sometimes we have these debate topics, and like I have to argue the side that I don't really feel passionately about. But this one actually worked out well because LiQuiuD likes stealth and I hate stealth. So this is going to be a good debate that we can actually passionately talk about our actual opinions and views on. So as per usual, we have a punishment for the loser. The loser will have to appear in stealth mode during next week's show. That's gonna be interesting, and I don't even know exactly what we're gonna do for it, but it should be interesting. We're gonna try and figure that out over the course of next week, but it'll be entertaining nevertheless, at least for the VOD. So if you don't tune in live or watch the VOD, I definitely encourage you to next week to see what that'll be like for at least our news segment. Okay, so defending this statement is gonna be LiQuiuD. He's gonna say that stealth is healthy for the game, and I'm gonna be rebuking it. At the end of the debate, and for the next couple of days, you can vote on straw poll on who the winner is, and we leave that up to you guys. So the format of our debate is the same as it's always been. The defender, so that's LiQuiuD, has 2 minutes to make his opening statement. That'll be followed by 3 minutes of rebuttal on my part, the rebuker. The defender will come back with 1 more minute of rebuttal. The moderator, which will be Mystic today, will ask a question of the rebuker, which would be me. I have 1 minute for response. He'll then ask 1 question to LiQuiuD, who will also have 1 minute for a response. Then I will have 2 minutes for my closing statement, followed by where we started with LiQuiuD having 2 minutes for his closing statement as well. Each participant gets 1 audible, where they can interrupt the other person mid-argument for a 15-second statement. So, that being said, Mystic, as our convener, do you want to get things started?
All right, let's see. Let me get this timer ready here.
I like how you're like playing it up because I'm actually the one who controls the timer since I'm handling the stream. But thanks for creating the illusion, and I guess sorry for wrecking it.
Hey. All right, I'll get a timer too, just for more realism.
Wait. Before we start, can I ask Mystic? Are those our new curtains?
They are new curtains.
Okay.
The other ones were right, so I thought I would maybe get some dark ones.
I like them.
Yeah, nice done. Okay, so Mystic, let us know when we're starting the timer.
All right. We'll start in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so stealth as a mechanic has been in the game since the beginning. The launch trailer with Nova, like you had to have stealth in the game. You had Nova popping out of stealth and dropping a nuke on Diablo. I mean, come on. Like, for real, stealth has to be in the game. That's just a given. Now, the idea that stealth is bad for the game, that's just crazy to me. That's like saying stuns are bad for the game, or support is bad for the game, or respawns are bad for the game. Like, these are solid game mechanics that work out quite well. And if you look at what Blizzard's done with stealth, they actually handled it quite nicely, in my opinion. They could have made it true stealth, where you can't see a shimmer, where there is nothing. If you play World of Warcraft and a rogue is stealth, you can't see a shimmer. You don't know that rogue is there till you get stabbed in the back. That's stealth. This is hot stealth. And in hot stealth, there's a shimmer. And you have a chance of taking that person out of stealth so that you can attack them. The one exception being Valera for 1 second after she vanishes, which I don't think is over. You know, I think that's valid. Like, she vanished. She should have that ability. She had to use an ability. She should get a second's protection from you taking her out. So I think the idea that stealth as a mechanic is bad for the game or not healthy for the game, that's just crazy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You can see the shimmer. You just have to spend some time working on seeing the shimmer so that you understand, hey, there's a stealthy there. I should throw an attack there, whether it's a Rainer Q or a valid W or anything. Just throw an ability that way, pull them out of stealth, and then boom, guess what? They no longer have the advantage. But if you're not watching for that stealth shimmer, that's not good, my friend, and you're about to die. So, watch for the shimmer. It's like any other mechanic in the game. Next thing you know, Daz will want to pull stuns out of it.
And stop.
All right.
All right. Daz, you have 3 minutes for the rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, first I'd like to thank LiQuiuD for basically throwing it because he does have absolutely no argument there at all. So remember, this is a debate where you might not have to believe on either side, but it's about debating prowess as well. So I want to start off by saying that I'm not arguing that stealth is OP. I actually think stealth is very balanced. The problem with stealth is and the thing that we're debating today is whether or not it's healthy for the game. And my argument is that it is not. But before we can debate that, we should actually talk a little bit about what a healthy game entails. Now, a healthy game, in my mind, is a game where most of the people participating in the game are having a good time. Net positive fun, let's put it that way. And I think that stealth as a mechanic makes net negative fun in the game. Blizzard, over the past couple decades, has really perfected the science of fun. They've refined this game over time, and they've taken out a lot of unfun mechanics, and they've responded to community feedback on those. There was the whole stun meta where you had no control, you just get stun, dead. There's the shield meta that they've recently kind of changed as well, and more recently than that, the Valeera nerf. Surprise, surprise, people didn't like Valeera in Quick Match. They said she's not fun to play against. She's not a healthy character to have in the game. So Blizzard went and they nerfed her down a little bit to the point where she's a bit more bearable. But my point is that having a stealth character in the game leads to a very unfun environment. What happens is, like, for instance, Nova as well, or Valeera, Zeratul, anyone who's a stealth mechanic, you've got to play on the edge. You got to sit back in lane. You always have to be nervous that they're there. You can't know where the obvious angle of attack is going to come from with what you typically get with Fog of War and bushes. You can know from that area that you've got vision on where the most likely area of attack is. So basically, having that kind of queasiness and that unsettling feeling is what I think is the biggest problem. And to highlight this, I've got a little tick marks here that I think that this.
Wait, audible. Wait, no. Wait, I'm not. This isn't even audible. So you can't add your own points to the debate, man. You guys, that's not fair. That is an unfair advantage, and that needs to come down.
Okay, I want to say that you just bear with me for 1 second before striking this from the record.
It's all breaking down now.
We don't need to use aids. It's a debate.
This is for entertainment purposes, and you'll see why in a second. Stealth leads to an elevated in-game queasiness and irritating and unnecessary depression, or in short, LiQuiuD. LiQiuD. So this queasiness makes the game unfun. And you know what? To be honest with you, I'd prefer a game where you didn't have this queasiness, this stepping on eggshells that you've got to play with. And then, you know what? I'm not saying this is a game where you shouldn't be stressed out or nervous. This is a Heroes Brawler, right? A MOBA. It's not like Sunshines and Unicorns. It's not Heroes of Hugs, right? But still, like, just having that unknown element where someone can jump out of you out of nowhere, not very easily counterable, and you've got to like run back to the court with a sliver of health, not knowing if Nova's. You can't hearth back without fear of potentially getting blown up is always a concern and very unfun.
All right.
Okay.
I just would like to point out before my time starts that I feel like I'm at a disadvantage now because I can't prepare slides to take people through things like apparently Daz can because he's the host of the show.
I was worried you might take a. That was more just for humor about.
It was still amusing, but I'm just throwing that out there.
It's the rebuker advantage.
No, I think that's just the host's.
Very true. So if you were watching, check out the VOD. I put up a little slide there to illustrate a point, which LiQuiuD probably hopes you don't get to see because he thinks it's an unfair advantage.
All right, LiQuiuD, you have 1 minute to maybe take down this abuse of power a little bit.
Yep, I'm
All
good.
right.
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right, my friend, I'm going to make a couple of quick points because I reserved them for this period so I can see which direction you want to take the debate. I didn't throw a debate. I used my brains. All right, there are 4 characters right now that use stealth. Nova, Samuro, Valeera, and Zeratul. All perfectly balanced characters. In addition to that, Hammer's got stealth. Vikings have stealth. Tyranda's got stealth. Your girl Tyranda's got stealth, man. The Haka's got stealth, Greymane's got stealth, Medivh's got stealth, Murky's got the ability to do some stealthy type shit. Like, come on. Even Tassadar with his E getting out of stuff, he goes stealth to do those things. You can't tell me stealth is not healthy because these, assassins are going to get you. You know why they changed stun so much? They changed stun, like they removed it from Varian, his charge. This is a negative thing in our game. We need to pull it out. They haven't removed stealth yet. No, because stealth is not that unhealthy. And you know what? You should always be prepared for someone to jump out of nowhere and gank you. We can go back 2 Chair League seasons, and I'll show you a team that learned that the hard way.
Okay, Mystic, time to ask a question. You just ask me when to start.
All right, Daz, your question here is, so with all those points that you brought up about stealth, my question for you is, do you feel like there is enough counterplay to the stealth mechanics, and is it balanced? Like, is it enough? Is it not enough for that? All right, ready, set, go.
Okay, well, I definitely think stealth is a balanced mechanic, and that isn't what we're arguing. There's counterplay, there's Tassadar Oracle, there's different ways you can get vision of your stealthies. What I think is that stealthiness leads to unfun game mechanics just by being present in the game. There are certain elements of stealth, and I don't think you can truly say that Tassadar, phase whatever he phases out can count as a stealth mechanic, LiQuid. I think we're talking about heroes that primarily stay in stealth mode. The fact that you can't get vision on them coming up close to and personal to you to like finish you off or whatever is always just, it makes you feel uneasy. Maybe I'll save it for later, but like when you're getting into rank play, for instance, and you see like a Nova pop up in your draft, no one's happy. You're not happy if they're on your team. You're not happy if they're on the other team, right? That's a stealth character and one that no one likes to have around because of what she brings to the game.
And
Audible.
You used your audible.
No. I was complaining about what you did. That was not my audible. That was a flag, sir. That was a flag. Even Twitch chat called that a flag. All right. I want to just audible that for a minute. In ranked play, when Nova comes up, the team's not upset because Nova has stealth. The team's upset because there's so many crappy Novas out there. They're like, oh, God, this kid's going to throw the game. It has nothing to do with stealth, sir. Nothing to do with stealth.
I'm gonna audible your audible.
Okay.
Nova's kit is all about her stealth, and one of the big reasons that stealth, and a lot of stealth characters have that ability so they can roam around from lane to lane and gank people and get those picks. And I think that's pretty much part of her kit and the reason that she is the way that she is.
Can I audible the audible of the audible?
No, you're out of audibles. You've used your flag and your audible, sir.
All right, Mystic, what's your question?
All right, LiQuiD, your question is basically the same thing that I asked Daz here. So with stealth being in the game, do you think that there is enough counterplay to stealth, and is that counterplay balanced for the stealth users? All right, ready, set, go.
Okay. So I do think it's balanced for the stealth users. What I would say, or balanced actually across the board, rather. What I would say is that Blizzard buffed scouting drone. They changed who could get scouting drones. They gave it to Cho'Gall. They did a lot of things to make it so that people who felt like they were victims of stealth had simple ways to reveal stealth characters. And I think they did a good job of balancing that. While I think Daz may be onto something where he says, you feel a certain way while a stealthy is in the game with you, I would counter that and say, well, you should always be prepared for that to happen, whether there's a stealthy or not. If you don't have vision on something that you're walking near, a bush, you're probably going to get ganked. And the same is true for a stealthy. I understand that they're not in a bush, so it can happen to you while walking around. Pair up with people that have scouting drones. Pair up with people that have reveals. Or at the end of the day, you need to be looking for that shimmer and throwing your abilities out there. That's how Blizzard balanced it.
There we go. All right. Let's see here. Now we have Daz with 2 minutes for a closing statement. Are you ready, Daz?
Sure am.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
So I like to refer to a slide. No, just kidding. So what we really need to look at here is how having a stealth character in your game makes your gameplay experience. LiQuiuD was saying, like, yeah, okay, you can do this and this to counter, you hang out with the guy with the scouting drone, you can do this and that to counter it. But the fact is that you got to do that. And isn't it damn annoying when you got to do that? I feel like the other kind of analogy to this, which, I mean, there can be an argument made either way, is something like a mosh pit. You got mosh pit as like you get ET coming in and you're like, everyone's like, oh crap, we gotta be able to counter the mosh pit. And everyone on the other team always hates playing against, say, an ETC with a mosh pit, especially if you don't have any counters to it. It just, you always have to play on eggshells. You gotta wait around, you gotta dance around until ETC uses his mosh. Very similar with the stealth too. It makes you change the way you play. And the fact is that it makes you play in a much less fun way. You can't engage in lane. You're running away. When you got away with that slip route, you're feeling so good. You're like, I got away. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Nova pops you. Like, at least if, Genji has a lot of mobility too. He's not stealth, but at least you can kind of see him coming because he should be within range of where you can see. Or if he's coming out of the fog of war, at least you know that fog of war could potentially be hiding heroes. With stealth heroes, they're hiding in plain sight. And that's the big problem I have. Yes, they have a shimmer. Yes, if you're great, you can see that shimmer. But realistically, especially in most levels of play, you're not going to be able to catch that shimmer come out unless you're lucky, especially in a team fight situation where you're running away. So, you know what? Ask yourself this. Would this game be better if you just deleted Nova, deleted Samuro, deleted Zeratul from the game? And my answer to that would be yes. I think the game would be much more enjoyable. There'd be less walking on eggshells. And personally, I'd throw up my hands a lot less in those drafts where there are stealthies on either side, being like, great, now we got to deal with that. And dealing with that is something that I don't want to do.
And stop. All right, now, LiQuiuD, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement. Are you ready?
I made the mic drop on this show. Don't try and mic drop me. Yeah, I'm good. Let's do this.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Yes, I can understand how players might be annoyed at having to deal with looking for the shimmer. But I would counter that and point out that my wife, the second day playing the game, saw the shimmer and said, hey, what's that? And I explained, oh, that's the shimmer of the stealthy. Throw something at that and knock them out of stealth and they lose their advantage. And she said, cool. And she's been doing that since then. The other thing I would point out is, all right, you can say that, well, yeah, when you're running away from a bush, maybe they'll get you, maybe they won't. You expect maybe somebody to be in the bush, but you can't see a stealthy. Sure, I could almost understand that, but the same is true of a stun. Tyrande can hit you with her Q or her stun. Yeah, I think that's on Q. Whatever key it's on. I don't play Tyrande. I don't like her personally. And from range, she might throw an owl at you. Remember the owl shooting at you? The owl might hit you from nowhere. You can't dodge that. Just boom, you dead. There's a lot of different ways that people can kill you from range. Azmodan can dunk you from half the map away, man. Did you see that coming? No, probably not. But if Azmodan's on the other team, you got to know that's coming, and you got to do the ziggy-zaggy to get away from that stuff. Chromie can hit you from way far away. Like, there's a million different ways that people can kill you without you knowing it's coming. Stealth is not the worst of them. I would put forward that Azmodan dunking you from half the map away is worse than stealth. At least with stealth, you're expecting it. Were you really counting the seconds until Azmodan's dunk came out of nowhere and hit you? Probably not. But my point is, stealth itself is not the problem. The problem is understanding that at any moment you can be attacked. And yes, I can understand that maybe you want a more laid-back game where you don't have to worry that any moment you can be attacked. But in Heroes of the Storm, especially at higher level play, you can be attacked at any moment, at any time, anywhere.
Okay, so as much as I'd like to rebut that, and it's funny because when you get a topic you're more passionate about, the side you're arguing, you want to keep going. But unfortunately, we have to stop at this point. Be it fair, be it not fair. If you think of that advantage by throwing up the slide, you know what? Maybe it's your vote. You guys get to decide. I'm throwing the straw poll link up in chat now. Feel free to pop in there. Toss on who you think you won the debate. We'll also toss this up on Reddit probably tomorrow or tonight, so people can get their votes in, and we'll freeze those votes within the next couple of days. The loser will have to appear in stealth mode during next week's show, and we had some interesting suggestions on how we could pull that off in our chat as well. So it'll be interesting no matter what we end up doing there. Okay, So we have one final segment that we're going to do before concluding the show. And I am stalling for time while I find my panel here. And it's Mystic's Shakedown. Mystic?
Mystic, I require service of you. I come to you as a friend, asking you to shake down this situation for me.
Okay, Mystic. I took that opportunity to vote for myself in straw poll too. Okay, Mystic, shake it down for us, bud.
All right, so my topic for this week is toxicity in the game. So, as we all know, that HOTS, ever since the 2.0 launch, has gotten a much bigger player base. You can see it on Twitch, you can see it in the game, queue times, they're much shorter, right? And so with this giant influx of people, HOTS, might not be able to control its growth so much. So I know a lot of people back in the day were like, oh yeah, HOTS has a great community, everybody's super nice. But with a growth this big, you can't control it as well. So there's going to be some toxicity that flows into the game. With all these new people are going to be flaming left and right, and all you can do is report them, right? So with the larger game population, it's bound to happen, no matter what the game is. So to expand upon that point, when people are toxic in the game, everybody has bad games. So maybe the teammate that you have on your team that is performing really, really bad, maybe he's just having an off day. He's having a bad game. Maybe he's usually GM master level. He carries games. He's just having a bad game. But people have bad games. So that leads it on my next point of giving people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's just having a bad day. Maybe he's just having a bad game. Maybe his girlfriend just broke up with him, or maybe he's just dealing with stuff at home. Stuff happens to people, and sometimes that translates into the game, and they just want to blow off some steam, and then they jump into Hero League, which may not be the best idea when you want to blow off some steam, but people do it anyway, and maybe they're just not doing so hot. So give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're just really nice people, and they're just having a bad day. So to move on to my next point here, flamers, usually they're people that are very passionate about the game. They're so passionate that they heat up to the extent where they start flaming people. So know that they're really into the game, but they just have too much fire and nowhere to throw it. So sometimes they throw it at other people on their team. Now, my best advice about this is to not flame back, not fan the flames, and at the end of the game, just report, move on, have Blizzard's system that may or may not work, who knows, deal with it. So yeah, in conclusion, the people that are flamers might not be bad people, but if you find yourself victim to some of this flaming, then just report and move on. Don't spread it around. We could use a little less toxicity in the game as the population gets larger.
Yeah, true story.
Where's your sign-off comment? You were making fun of LiQuiuD for not having one earlier. Back to you, Daz, right? Something like that. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Sometimes the toxicity can really get to you, too. And I think people lose sight of the fact that it's a game and we're not all pros. Everyone makes mistakes. It's not like everyone's perfect. And you know what? Everyone makes bad decisions. There's no reason to jump on them with a negative attitude. Be like, we'll get them next time, guys, right? Okay, so on that note, I think we'll end off the show here. So thank you, everyone, for listening to the Nexus Trolls, a Heroes of the Storm podcast, which we stream live on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/trollsgg, every week on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. LiQuiuD, where can people find you?
So you can find me here every Wednesday night, both here and Trollin' HGC, which starts at 9:30 on Wednesday nights. You can also find me on Twitter, twitter.com/LiQuiuDGG, LiQiuDGG, or on Twitch, twitch.tv/LiQuiuDGG, LiQiuDGG.
I think it's funny. I was just looking at Twitch chat, and Fatty, our troll of the week. Ironically enough, I'm not sure if you were in chat when we gave you the troll of the week honors. He put a little message in there saying that's a fluffy pussy, and I was like, it got modded, so I had to like say okay because my cat decided to jump into the stream there, and knowing fact that was probably an honest comment, but it got modded by Twitch. So good to see you in chat there, Fatty. Too. Again, you got our troll of the week too. So Mystic, where can folks find you? I'm looking at your Twitter account. You've got 9 tweets. Numbers are going up.
Oh yeah, I'm getting up there.
16 followers too.
You can find me at Mystic Shroud on Twitter. Just tweet me a message if you want to give me some ideas for topics that I could potentially do, or you just want to send me a message. So
he's starved for attention on Twitter. He doesn't have a profile picture up yet. So if nothing else, tweet at him. Give him a little flack for not having a banner image or anything on Twitter. But we're getting Mystic up there every day. He's tweeting out more, getting more followers and stuff too.
Remember, I'm just gonna throw this out there before you close the rest of the show. Remember to vote, and remember to try and buy your BlizzCon tickets at the top of the hour if you're going to try tonight.
This is true. And if you don't get a chance to get them too, there are places you can find them for resale as well. And people are generally pretty good about not marking them up extraordinarily high. I've heard people have had a lot of success getting tickets after the sales have ended. So just keep an eye out for those. And if you're persistent enough, I'm sure you'll be able to get some. And if you're looking for me, you can find me at DazHots on Twitter. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/trollsgg. If you like the show and you're looking for a way to support us, you can do so there. You can also subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or where you happen to find our podcasts online. And if you do, give us a 5-star review on those sites, especially iTunes. It really does help. You can also visit our website at trolls.gg/TheNexusTrolls to watch this and past shows, along with past video streams, which can also be found on our YouTube channel. For announcements about the show in general, here's the Storm News. You can follow us on Twitter at TheNexusTrolls. If you want to hang out with us and the Trolls community in-game, you can /join TrollsGG in-game. And finally, if you need to get in touch with us, the best way is by email at TheNexusTrolls. At TheNexusTrolls at troll. God, I really screwed that up.
You want to try that again?
Blah, blah, blah. Marbles in my mouth. TheNexusTrolls at trolls.gg. If you're watching the VOD, it's down below. It makes it a little bit easier just to read off the screen there. But everyone, thanks for listening. Guys, thanks for coming on with me and hosting the show. Everybody, have a great week.